Hi everyone, I'm Lael Tate from Multnomah County Library School Corps with Novelties 2022. And in this video, I'm going to cover books about past lives, stories from history. If you'd like to find the books and websites that I mentioned in this presentation, the links are included in the description below. African Town by Irene Latham and Charles Waters, grade 7 and up. The year is 1859, and Kosala is preparing for his initiation ceremony to be a warrior in his tribe. He has been training for years, and now that he is almost 19, he is finally ready. But his plans are violently halted when his village is attacked and he is kidnapped by members of a nearby tribe. He and other people from his village are marched for days until they get to the coast. There, they are forced to board a ship and learn that they are being taken to America. In the United States, Kosala is sold into slavery. He longs to go back home to Africa, to see his family, and to be surrounded by his culture and land. African Town is a historical nonfiction book written in verse. In 1808, America banned the importation of enslaved people from Africa. Many white people, driven by racism, cruelty, and greed, were upset with this change and decided to secretly continue the slave trade. This book is about the lives of the people on the last slave ship from Africa to the US and switches perspectives between different characters and historical figures. The voices include Kosala, the warrior, Keyanko, and Abile, two girls who are kidnapped from their homes and who form a friendship and sisterhood on the march to the coast, and Kupali, who was in his early 20s when he was kidnapped, among others. In America, they build relationships with each other, they resist the violence of slavery, and they dream of returning home. When slavery was abolished in 1865, they navigate together how to protect their communities and raise their families. They eventually buy land, build a church and a school, and begin to create African Town, a place for their community and families to be safe and to grow. This book is a powerful story about real events that happened, told in a unique and compelling way. It is a story of resilience and hope. Some discussion questions and topics you can talk about include: have you learned about Africa Town in school before? If yes, how did this book change your perspective? If not, why do you think you haven't learned about it? Kosala, Keyanko, Abile, and Kupali were very strong and resilient throughout the book. How did they lean on each other to get through the hardest times? How did they work together to build a community and a future for their kids? How do you think the format of the book, different perspectives, and written in verse, affects how you learn this history? Do you think it was effective? Some related websites include an interview with the authors, the Clotilda Descendants Association for descendants of people who are on the ship, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and an article on Africa Town, Alabama, and the Chess blog, which talks about current events in Africa Town today. Mighty Inside by Sundee T. Frazier, grades 4 through 8. Melvin is anxious for his first day of school. For one, he has two older siblings who are super successful: Chuck, the star athlete, and Marianne, who is the first black girl to be nominated for homecoming court at their school. Chuck gave Melvin a list of do's and don'ts for high school, and on the list are things like: do, walk into class like you're a king entering your domain, and don't, bring your accordion to school ever. On top of all this, Melvin is nervous because he has a stutter and kids bully him for it. Mighty Inside is set in Spokane, Washington in the 1950s. While many things that Melvin deals with might be similar to life today, other things are different. Spokane is very segregated during this time period, and some places don't allow black people to enter. Smaller things are different too, like how Melvin and his family get their first icebox or refrigerator during the book. On the first day of school, a kid named Lenny befriends Melvin right away. At first, Melvin is hesitant because Lenny is white and lives above the Harlem Club, a music venue that only allows white people to be there most of the week, meaning Melvin and his family aren't allowed there. But Melvin learns that he and Linny have more in common than he thinks. They both love jazz, so much so that they decide to enter the Starlight Stairway competition on TV. Melvin also finds out that Linny is Jewish, and though their lives are very different, Linny also experiences prejudice from hateful people in town. Looking through old family photos, Melvin starts to learn that he and Linny might go back further than he knows. Mighty Inside is about friendship, standing up for yourself, and fighting prejudice and racism. Freedom Swimmer by Wei Chim, grade 7 and up. The year is 1962, and Ming has just survived China's Great Leap Forward, a government campaign that resulted in famine and the deaths of millions of Chinese people, including Ming's parents. Ming struggles with the loss of his parents and with the grueling labor he must continue in the fields. Li is part of a group of students from the city who have come to Ming's village as part of a re-education program from the Communist Party. The students aren't used to the hard work and labor in Ming's village and struggle to fit in. But an unlikely friendship forms between the quiet, hardworking Ming and the charming and respected Li. They bond over their love of swimming and their dreams of freedom, away from the labor and strict laws imposed by the government. One day, the two boys devise a plan that seems impossible, to swim to the island of Hong Kong, away from their current government. But in order to get there, they have to brave the dangerous waters, complete with sharks, naval patrols, and the threat of being caught. Voyage of the Sparrowhawk by Natasha Ferrant, grades 4 through 7. World War II has just ended, but for Ben and Lottie, the troubles continue. Ben receives word that his older brother is missing somewhere in France, and this puts him at risk of being sent back to the orphanage. He decides to hide out with his dog in the Sparrowhawk, his family's old narrowboat home. Meanwhile, Lottie's aunt and uncle are planning to send her back to an awful boarding school, even though she just escaped one. She runs away and also finds herself on the Sparrowhawk. Ben and Lottie form an unlikely friendship and bond over their shared experiences. But the constable is after them, and it's only a matter of time before he finds them on the Sparrowhawk and sends them back to the orphanage and boarding school. So Ben and Lottie set off on an adventure. They take the Sparrowhawk on the dangerous journey to France in search of Ben's older brother and Lottie's grandmother. They are pursued closely by the constable, but they receive help from some unlikely characters along the way. This is an exciting, action-packed adventure. Down below the video, you will find a link to the full list of titles from this year's Novelties videos, links where you can watch our other school corps presentations, and a link to book discussion tips from Multnomah County Library. Finally, you can also find out more about school corps by following the link below.